In this video, we'll see how to calculate the difference between the current week's sales and the previous week's sales. Now that sounds fairly straightforward, but we're going to introduce a bit of a complication into this process. If you notice my table, I have a list of 52 weeks worth of sales. But when I calculate the difference from the previous week, I need to take into account weeks where there were no sales. Again, this sounds fairly straightforward, but let's see what happens when we try to do it the way most people will attempt. Be sure to check out the link in the video description for these download files so you can follow along, or just open up the solution file and check out the results. The most obvious way to calculate this difference would be to take the current week's sales and deduct the previous week's sales. This gives us the difference. So in week 2, we increased sales by $160. But then I'll take this formula and fill it down my table. What you'll notice is every time we hit a week where there were no sales, we're calculating the difference from the previous week. So in week 5, the difference was $302. And by the time we get down to week 7, where we had another week's worth of sales, it shows that we increased our sales by $196 because the previous week was 0. But this is not accurate. I would want to calculate the difference of week 7 to week 4, not the prior week. Let's see how we can write a formula that will skip the blank cells when discovering the prior week's sales. This is the formula that will give us what we want. Now it looks a little intimidating, so let's break it down into its pieces and understand what each piece is responsible for. Then when you see it as its whole, it will make better sense. Let's begin with this part, a locked down B2 through a moving B2, and we want to see if it's not equal to blank. So we're testing every cell in this range to see if there's a number. Now what makes this very interesting is when we build this formula in cell C3, it will only check cell B2 because it's B2 through B2. But when we pull that formula down to the next row, the first reference of a locked down B2, absolute address, will stay fixed, but the relative B2 will change to B3. So then it will look at 2 cells and tell us which cells have numbers and which cells are blank. Then when I pull it down to the next row, it will examine B2 through B4, and the next row will be B2 through B5, etc. Looking at the first dozen entries, this is what each of those formulas will return, a list of true-falses. For the first formula, it will examine B2 through B2, there's something there, so it returns a true. The second formula examines B2 through B3, there are 2 numbers, so it returns 2 trues. The next one examines B2 through B4, there are 3 numbers, therefore 3 trues. And then finally, the next one examines B2 through B5, there are 4 numbers, so 4 trues. But the next one examines B2 through B6. This returns 4 trues and a false, because there's no number for week 5. The next one looks at B2 through B7. That returns 4 trues and 2 falses. And then the next one looks at B2 through B8, which returns 4 trues, 2 falses, and another true. And this pattern just repeats. So what we can do with these lists of true-falses is we can locate the last instance of a true. So for our second step, we'll use the XLOOKUP function to locate a true in the list provided by that B2 through B2 not equal to blank logic. We want XLOOKUP to start its search from the end and work backwards. That way the first true we hit will be referencing an occupied cell, the last occupied cell in the range. So to do this, we will put a -1 in the 6th argument of the XLOOKUP function. XLOOKUP allows us to define the direction of the search. Placing a 1 in the 6th argument, the search will be performed from the beginning of the list to the end of the list. A -1 will perform the search from the end of the list back to the beginning. So if we were in week 2, the location of the first XLOOKUP function, it will look at cells B2 through B2, there's only 1 number, that will return a true. The next week, week 3, we'll look at weeks 2 and 1. There are numbers in both of those, so we get 2 trues. Week 4, we'll look at weeks 3, 2, and 1. 3 numbers, therefore 3 trues. Week 5, we'll look at weeks 4, 3, 2, and 1. There are 4 numbers, therefore 4 trues. In an upcoming step, we're going to add logic that will avoid the calculation here because there are no sales. But for now, let's just keep rolling with the logic. So at this point, our last encountered true was in the 4th position. Week 6 looks at weeks 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Week 5 is a false, preceded by 3 trues. So still, the last encountered true was in the 4th position. Week 7 looks at weeks 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Week 6 and 5 have no numbers, therefore they're false. So the fourth week was the first encountered true when searching backwards. Here we will perform a calculation. Now, just to go through the rest of these examples, week 8 says the last encountered true I discovered was in the 7th position. So this would have been between cells B2 and B8. Week 9 also says that the last cell with a value was in week 7. Week 10 says the last time I saw a number was also in week 7. Week 11, the last time it encountered a number prior to this time, was week 10. And then, of course, week 12, the last time it saw a number was in week 11. XLOOKUP will be returning these numbers in each of its searches, and it will use these numbers to return a corresponding value from another location. Now, in this case, that location is going to be the same expanding range of B2 through B2. At every week, the range gets longer. The scan starts from the bottom of that expanding range. It backs up through the list and discovers the first true starting from the end of the list, and then uses that number to return a value from that same position in the list. So here are the returned values from each of those XLOOKUPs. The values in black are the ones we want to actually use for calculations. The ones in red need to be skipped. Now, before we get to the skipping logic, we'll take the current week's sales and deduct from that the discovered previous week's sales. So this will calculate every week's sales in relation to the previous week that had sales. Now, it's also going to do those non-sale weeks, which are erroneous values. So this is where the if statement comes into play. We'll run a check and say if the current week's sales is empty, then don't perform this calculation. But if the current week's sales is not empty, then go ahead and perform the discovery with the expanding range, searching from the bottom up, so we can locate that last week's actual sales and deduct it from the current week's sales. So with those non-sale week formulas removed, we're only executing the XLOOKUP on weeks where there were actually sales. Since week 1 is not performing a calculation, the formula needs to be placed in week 2. This gives us our calculation. And now let's see what happens when we pull this down. So for week 3, we calculate the difference between week 3 and week 2. Week 4, the difference between week 4 and week 3. But then in week 5, we get nothing because we just skip the logic immediately. Same thing for week 6. And then finally for week 7, we're calculating the difference between week 7 and week 4. I'll go ahead and double click that and run that down the rest of the range. And as you can see, the difference between week 15 and week 11, we lost $5. But the difference between week 18 and week 15, we lost $140. But then in week 23, we gained $135. Now, there may be other ways to solve this problem, and if you know of a way that's comparable to or better than this, put it down in the comments. I'd love to be able to perform this even more efficiently, but this is just the way I came up with it. Don't forget to download this file from the link in the video description so you can have all of the steps plotted out and then be able to test this on your own. Thank you for watching, and remember at BCTI, the learning never stops.